Back on Wednesday, February 26th, I made a forecast for Nvidia, and that was the same day earnings were coming out. And right now the market is headed towards the forecast. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to give you a quick lesson on how you revisit a market's levels, support and resistance and everything else if the forecast is actually unfolding. Because if you have your forecasting skills, which I teach in my loss forecasting trading system, then this may have happened to you or may in the future. So if you're new here, I'm Hema Reddy. I use price action, candlesticks like you see here, market timing, the forecasting I'm talking about, and momentum, my favorite indicator being the RSI power zones down below, to boost my trading and that of our trading tribes. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and put a little WIP, work in progress note here, okay? And we're going to update this to March 3rd. Now, this is just the daily chart. I had looked at higher time frames, and I will do that briefly once again. So when I first was coming up with the forecast, I had discovered some support in the middle of the week ending February 7th range, but we've now broken below that low. So if you have ever used my methods, I teach this in 4 zones RSI coverage system, how I have my ways of identifying support and resistance that are my favorite. And if you apply those and then you see the market moves past those levels, well, guess what? These levels are not resistance or support anymore. Once they're violated, meaning traded through, you must remove that annotation, okay? Because I saw a recent coaching student doing this. We hadn't gotten to that topic yet. And I said, hey, if you trade down below that support, you got to take it off your chart, right? If you trade up through that resistance, you got to take it off your chart. And that obviously turned things around for them. So once you remove that, you can still on this higher time frame chart look at like what's next. Well, we have this platform back here from the week ending September 6th. We also have back here the week ending August 9th. And look at how the high of the week ending August 9th coincides with the midpoint, the 50% fib, if you will, of the week ending September 6th. Very interesting, okay? That $108 area. So I'm going to just make a little note on the side here. So $108 as a support kind of to watch. And if I want, I can pull these individual levels. Now for resistance, we have clearly now established the week ending February 21st as a key price high, price with a capital P, as I say, on the weekly chart of Nvidia. So we can go in and look at what are the key levels of that. It's old low, it's midpoint, it's high, okay? So if we were going to then take those levels to the daily chart, now I have them in place. I probably won't use these. I'll probably just use daily chart levels, but I just wanted to show you how you adjust your weekly chart. All right, now let's go back to the daily chart. All right, so now we're on the daily chart, and clearly the yellow line here represents the day I made the forecast, right? So at that point, none of this downside had unfolded. We were in the middle of this bar forming. So the best way to clean up your charts, especially if you're new to updating support and resistance, is this, okay? Dial back to whatever the date is from when you last took action or when you made your hypothesis, like I made this forecast. Then look at the next session. See what was violated. So we had a daily close, right? Red candle close beneath whatever this support was. It doesn't even matter anymore. Remove it. You can make your candles wider to make this easier to do, but let's do this again. So we're going to come back to the day of the yellow. This is when I made the forecast. Next day, took out a support. Day after that, even though it was a green candle, it took out support. Remove it from your chart. Remove it from your list of levels. Day after that, remove. So it's easier to just take out supports first, then evaluate. So now every other support I have here from my previous analysis is still intact. So is my forecast. And if you didn't see my other video or blog post, you can find it on my website. But I'll just remind you here that the forecast was to reach this area of about $103, let's call it. Okay, I'm just giving you a ballpark. If you use loss forecasting, you can get the precise amount. And the date is March 13th. So one of my students said, hey, I think we might hit it early. And he has loss forecasting. And the reason he's saying that is because the pace of the downward move seems to be more steep, more of a drop than the cycle that's projected. Again, loss forecasting students know the mechanics behind this. If you're watching and you don't have that course, keep an eye out. We'll be opening doors back up to it soon. Now, let's continue with our lesson on support and resistance. So I just took out supports, right? So I don't even care what those numbers were anymore. They are not part of the story. Now, in order to determine what is most significant of the resistance levels, okay? Again, I'm just kind of zooming back out. You don't really need to look at all this past history. We already have some resistance that's intact, but I want to add new levels, right? So now I'm going to go and do my little dance from right to left. So if you are in a market that's falling, which many of us are right now, whether it's the broad market or individual stocks, right? Things are tanking. And we don't know how long they're going to last that way. But whether it's a downtrend like we're all seeing right now or an uptrend, go to the furthest right candle that's completed. So do this after the market close if it's a daily chart, or at least wait until the candle closes if you're intraday, okay? Then go back one bar. Go back one bar until you have a price high, right? That's a bar high, a higher bar high, and a lower bar high. That is definitely a significant resistance you want to pay attention to, because if the price climbs higher, it's going to bump into this ceiling that was previously a sell point. Places where buyers are going to reemerge are places where sellers used to live. Places where sellers may reemerge or where buyers used to live. So that's all this is switching who has control at that price level, right? At 135.01, bears had control on February 27th. And they may again when we revisit, or the market might blast through higher. So I just want to know when the price gets to 135.01. Now, if you're using TradeStation like me or any other platform, you usually have the ability to put an alert on your level. So in TradeStation, it's horizontal line, edit, alert, and then I can enable an alert if I want, and hit to either alert continuously, like it's going to go ding, 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 ding until I turn it off, or alert once, right? So that's just an option for those of you who want that actual prompt. Come back and look at the screen. Okay, let's finish this out with intraday resistance levels, okay? So I'm going to take this same chart, and then I'm going to make a copy of it and go to a 60-minute time frame to show you some more resistance. So you change your chart time frame usually by the settings on whatever your platform is, time frame, and then choosing when you want. And here we are. Now, because I changed the time frame, I have to remove the forecast times. They won't make sense anymore, whether it's this past old one or this new one. However, the price level is still useful to monitor, okay? When you change time frames, if you're a loss forecasting student, remember you have to readjust the timing of the forecast. Now, notice that here we had that 135.01 in the daily. If we do the same right to left exercise on the 60-minute chart of Nvidia, we'll uncover more resistance levels. So if I go back here, oh, right here at 117.62 was a resistance. I happen to use blue for resistance, so I also know that. You go back, you have this swing high. Ooh, that was a big important one. And in fact, for me, when there's a swing high like this, so a high, two lower bars on the right and the left, I like to know what's the entire range and the midpoint and the old low. So again, all of these tactics I'm doing, this is not a black box, okay? I teach this across my courses, and the first ones that are what most of y'all get into are 4 zones RSI coverage system, where I really get into the RSI power zones, and I teach price action tactics. And then the loss forecasting trading system, where I literally teach you how to forecast the way I did here in NVIDIA. All right, I'm not done. If I keep going back, if I want to be prepared, okay, in case the market turns higher, I also want to see this big guy here, the one the day after earnings. I want to find out what's the middle of that range. All right, so 130.15, just mark it with a visual line, and there she goes. So now, if I were to continue analysis, let's say I was trading NVIDIA and I wanted to manage my trade, now by looking at the 60-minute chart, I have more nearby resistance levels to help manage a swing trade position. I can also continue to look at clues from RSI and everything else. Right now, big picture, the RSI looks like it just worked off extremely oversold conditions. I mean, we're talking 1637 on February 25th, right? It relieved itself back towards the bear resistance power zone, consolidated, and then boop, fell again. That doesn't mean it's going to stay down. It doesn't mean we're going to get to the target. You have to constantly monitor the trend. So I'll say this. While we are beneath the 143.44 high, So that's the same high from this daily chart. That is what is maintaining the forecast, okay? This forecast is still valid so long as we're still beneath 143.44. However, it's those 60-minute resistance levels that I would use to help maximize any profit that you may have off of a short or bearish position that you have in play, especially if we don't get to the target, or even if we do get to the target but we accelerate the pace of this move. You always want to kind of trail your position and lock in as much as profit as you can. All right, hope that was a helpful lesson. You should refer back to it whether you trade NVIDIA or not, how to update support and resistance when the market's headed towards your forecast. If you found value in this video, please give this channel a like if you haven't already. If you haven't already, drop a like on the video and subscribe, and drop a comment if you have any feedback to share, and I'll catch you next time.